You know, it's been a long time since I had something to say. I told you what was going on, then I went away. Now it's been about a year, so I'm coming back to remind y'all what's going on here. Everything I said turned out to be true. All the lies in the media, the gaslighting you. There never really was a real pandemic, or there would have been people pushing wheelbarrows. Dead people in the streets, piled up to here. Dropping dead faster than we could conceive. Bodies piled up like the Spanish flu, but it wasn't like that, cause they're lying to you. It's time to be awakening. Alright. It's the Great Awakening. Turns out there were no more deaths in 2020 than in previous years, counting all the other causes. They just moved the deaths from all the other columns, like flu and pneumonia. You know what they called them? They call them COVID deaths. They inflated the numbers to make us all afraid. Separate your families to make us feel sad. Isolate the children to make them feel bad. Terrify them, then deny them basic human dignities they rely on. Human touch, smiling face, fresh air to breathe, a wide open space. Slap a mask on your little kid's face. Staph infection all over the place. Why can't people see the fear they're in? This shit is straight up Luciferian. Shit. All right. Welcome to the Evan J Livestream. I'm your host, Evan J, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. Today's date is Wednesday, June the 16th, 2021, and today's topics are going to be a little bit lighter in general than yesterday. Yesterday, we got super serious and really intense, and today we're going to lighten it up a little bit. So going to look at some funny headlines and some good satire from the best satire site on the internet, the Babylon Bee. And then we're going to look at the good news of the week, which is out today from Telegram from the CJ Truth channel, so we'll cover some of that. We're going to look at another headline about ethical doctors in Europe and what they're doing about the COVID situation. They've started a new organization called Doctors for COVID Ethics, so we're going to look at that and see what they're talking about. And then we're going to look a little bit into the Wuhan lab situation and how it has been funded, not just by Fauci, as we saw in the leaked emails, but through some, let's just say, some other interesting sources that have been pumping money into a lot of social engineering and election rigging lately, as well as gain-of-function research for deadly viruses. So we're going to look at all of that today. A couple of housekeeping announcements. What is up, my brother? We got Alex McDonald from the Politics Show in the house again. Honored to have you here, my bro. How are you? Thank you for being here. I'm super excited. I want to do a couple of quick announcements because today it looks like we are back on YouTube, okay? So we were banned for a week. We're probably going to be banned again very soon. But because we're on YouTube, we're also able to stream here right on the Evan Talks website. So that's evantalks.com. But since we're going to be banned from YouTube, that's the Evan Talks channel, of course, on YouTube. Expect to be banned there pretty soon again. So a couple of places you want to know to follow me is my Telegram channel. That is t.me/Evan Talks is my channel. And if you put the word chat after Evan Talks, so it's t.me/Evan Talks chat, you'll get right into the group where we can communicate. You can comment on my videos, on my posts. You can ask me questions and all of that stuff. Now, this isn't something you type into the search field when you're on Telegram. You type that into your browser window, t.me. It's a URL. So you don't have to put the HTTPS and the colon and all that stuff. You can if you want, but you don't need to. You just put t.me/Evan Talks chat. I think those links are in the description depending on what platform you're watching on, there should be links and like where to follow me kind of in the description to the video. So if you don't see them, if you're on some platform that you don't see the links to the description, make sure to drop comments for me so I know how to correct that for you. Another thing I want to show you, let's see, is my new channel on Brighteon, okay? And there is a short link that I made, which is evantalks.com/Brighteon. Now, Brighteon is Mike Adams's platform that he created, the head of Natural News, the guy who created Natural News and does the Health Ranger Report podcasts. It's a great free speech platform. And what I did on Brighteon, because what I'm doing, it's really time and labor intensive, as I'm sure you know, to take the live stream replay and upload them to different platforms and, you know, post the links and all of the descriptions and all of that stuff and the keywords and the metadata, and then sharing those links out to other social platforms. And it just takes a lot of time. So right now, and this is kind of an evolving situation, but right now here's what's going on. I'm live streaming 3 p.m. Pacific every day on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and where else am I live streaming to? Wherever else I can reach through Restream. And so after the show, I take the video and I upload it to my Rumble channel. My Rumble channel is right here, and the short link that I created is evantalks.com/Rumble. And that will take you right to my channel on Rumble. And there I post all my videos every night. So if I'm banned from YouTube again, or if I get pulled from Facebook and you can't find my live stream at 3 p.m., then know that by about 5 p.m. Pacific or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. at the outside, the replay from that day is going to go up to this channel on Rumble, and you'll be able to see it every night without fail, Monday through Friday, okay? And then what I did last night was I edited out 3 clips, about 10 minutes each, from last night's show, which was a 90-minute show. And so I pulled 3 different clips, about 9 minutes, 10 minutes each, and I uploaded those to my Brighteon channel. So those are here. So I uploaded a segment on the Eric Clapton article yesterday and his interview, and the TikTok video lady who was talking about succession planning. That was really scary in the oil industry, how they're planning to replace up to half their workforce, and it's really alarming. So she was sounding the alarm. And then I took apart some propaganda from an article on Eric Clapton that was in New Music Express, NME.com, and I basically eviscerated the propaganda. I showed you how in an otherwise pretty decent article, they slip in this innocuous propaganda. In this case yesterday, it was how there was no evidence of something, and I'm being careful in what I'm saying today because I don't want to be bounced off of YouTube as soon as we're back on there. But the propaganda said there was no evidence of something, and it took 2 seconds for me to show example after example after example of evidence of the very thing that they falsely stated there's no evidence of. So I showed you how to do that. I called out the author of that article and NME itself, NME.com, as an enemy of the people because they publish propaganda. And it really pissed me off yesterday. So I threw a lot of F-bombs out there. I'm going to try to refrain from that today. And I want to start with a laugh right now and actually show you a little clip again from broadcast news with the news producer that gets in the anchor seat and he can't stop sweating. I got to show you this clip because it's totally relevant for what's going on here today, okay? So here is broadcast news clip.
5 seconds.
Fine. Station.
Everything's fine, Aaron.
A bomb exploded on a railroad bridge outside of
Madras, India, sending a passenger train hurtling more than 200 feet down a mountain slope. Railway officials in New Delhi said the bomb had been wired to the suspension bridge and had been detonated
he wrote some beautiful
by a
stuff.
remote-controlled device.
120 people were reported injured.
I don't know if you can see that, but this is what it's all about. It's 100 degrees in here. I've got a t-shirt under this shirt. I can still see sweat through there. I'm just like that guy in broadcast news. So I'm being out with it, and I've got shorts on. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to take off my jacket because then I'm going to look just like he did in that movie. So anyway, that's what's going on here, and we're having a good time today. So continuing right on to the good news of the week. All right, we've got this coming from the Babylon Bee. And the Babylon Bee is a great satire site on the internet, babylonbee.com. And they've been getting in these fights with the New York Times, which is like the king of fake news. And they work for they're part of the AP, and the Associated Press is a propaganda outlet. You know, they worked for Hitler. They helped exterminate Jews and lie about it. They helped gin up hatred against Jews, just like they're doing to people who weren't wearing masks or who don't want to get the shots. They're ginning up hatred to them. So the Babylon Bee excoriates them on a regular basis. And the New York Times has been on a they've been on a slash and burn campaign calling the Babylon Bee fake news and dangerous and misinformation. And so the Babylon Bee sued the New York Times in court. And then here's another joke article about that. Let me, here, I'll pop in here. New York Times forced to admit Babylon Bee not fake news since stories keep coming true. Okay, and let me read this article for you. New York, New York. The New York Times called the Babylon Bee dangerous far-right misinformation, but has now retracted that claim and issued a correction after reviewing the data and admitting the Babylon Bee actually has a really high accuracy rate in predicting the future. We are sorry we called the Babylon Bee misinformation, the Times wrote on its corrections page. After further review, it's clear the Babylon Bee is reporting real news just a few days ahead of time. The stories just keep coming true. The Times said it did a study on Babylon Bee stories and found that while the whole site just has 2 jokes, over 99.9% of them are actually prophecies that are fulfilled usually within a couple of weeks of posting. Given the Bee's extraordinary track record, the Times was forced to admit that the Babylon Bee is real news, quote unquote, far more real than anything the Times has ever published. I love that. We apologize for ever saying that Babylon Bee was anything other than a real news a week ahead of time, says the Times. As part of the New York Times concessions to the Christian satire site, they were forced to admit in court that the Babylon Bee's writers are more talented and handsome than they are, and that CEO Seth Dillon is absolutely ripped and the ideal physical embodiment of a man. Oh, God bless those guys at the Babylon Bee. So continuing on, the CDC released a report, not really, this is satire, that people with dirt on the Clintons have an 843% greater risk of suicide. It's not even funny because they keep killing people. They just killed someone else last week. Atlanta, Georgia, according to a report from the Centers for Disease Control released on Thursday, people with inside compromising knowledge of Bill and Hillary Clinton's financial and political dealings are 843% more likely to commit suicide. We've never seen a single risk factor cause a spike of this magnitude, the CDC spokesperson told reporters. Interestingly, in spite of their increased suicide risk, people with dirt on the Clintons rarely show any warning signs of suicide, and they never leave a suicide note. Funny, right? But not really. Remarking about how abnormal it is, the spokesman again stressed the significance of the data. Therefore, we advise any American with detrimental information about Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, or the Clinton Foundation to forget about it as quickly as possible to avoid a greatly increased probability of taking your own life. And the article. And I swear that's all we know. Oh, man. It is so funny. Okay, and then the last headline on Babylon Bee that we're going to cover today. I can't even click on it. I'm cracking up. Okay. Breaking. Kamala Harris hit with Joker laugh gas attack. Update. False alarm. She was simply asked a question about children locked up at the border. Oh my God, it's so terrible. Because I should have had that video queued of her cackling when she was asked about the children at the border and when she was going to go down there. And she just started, not today. Oh, what an evil, evil wench. Washington, D.C. Vice President Kamala Harris has been hit with a possibly lethal dose of laugh gas, most likely at the hands of Gotham supervillain the Joker. Harris was spotted having a fit of uncontrolled laughter, horrifying everyone around her, that's for sure. A sure sign of the toxic gas the clown prince of crime is known for. I love these guys at the B. Masks are at the scene trying to calm Harris down. Oh, medics are at the scene trying to calm Harris down, but she's unresponsive, simply laughing in everyone's faces. And the area has been cleared in case the Joker is still nearby and could dose someone else. We will keep you updated as more about Harris's condition is known and for any more information of what could be the Joker's next target. And here is the update. It was a false alarm. Harris has not been dosed with the Joker's laughing gas at all. A reporter asked her about the horrible conditions at the border and the number of children locked up there, and that question is what caused her to lapse into a hysterical fit of laughter. Though frightening, her staff assures everyone that this is perfectly normal for her. As for the Joker, he's currently locked away in Arkham Asylum, where he assuredly will spend the rest of his life and never bother us again. Until the next movie, anyway. All right, so funny from the Babylon Bee, right? And man, we have to laugh. If you listen to Mike's podcasts on Natural News and Brighteon, there is some really alarming stuff that I'm totally not covering today, and I'm not sure when or if I'm even going to cover it, but I highly recommend that you follow the Health Ranger Report on Natural News and Brighteon.com and find from the tip of the spear some of the stuff about the globalist stuff, about the war on humanity, about the Depop agenda, all of like really stuff that I just couldn't get into. Now, here's something I want to, I'll cut away. I'll do this. I'll do this over here. So yesterday I tried something new and I edited clips out of the show. I'm not doing a very serious show today, so I probably won't edit clips out of the show today. But because I spend time editing clips out of the show and posting them to the Brighteon channel and figuring out, okay, what should I do between each show to maximize the reach and to help people kind of get a taste of what I'm doing. And so I think that's what I'm going to do when I feel like a show kind of sparked and hit some fire like we did yesterday. I'll pull some clips from there. The only problem is when I do that and I spend all my time editing and uploading those clips before today's show, and I didn't really have a lot of time to prep a lot of stuff for today's show. So as I am gaining my sea legs and getting the rhythm down to create the thumbnails and schedule the live stream and, you know, finish from yesterday and prepare for today and tomorrow, I'm still kind of getting there. So I'd love some feedback if you guys watch the clips on Brighteon. I think they're easier to share because they're shorter clips. I'm also posting the links to those on my Telegram channel at Evan Talks. So let's go back to the show today and talk about what's next. So now I want to do some good news of the week, okay? And this is coming from the CJ Truth channel on Telegram, okay? And so I can just read to you from this post. I don't need to show the post on the screen. I can just stay here. But check this out. Just want to do a little broadcast news situation here. I'm like, this isn't visible, is it? Should I play that clip again? Oh my God. This isn't visible, is it? Oh my God. Oh my God, it's just too funny. I don't know why I think it's so funny, but
Gee whiz.
yeah. Okay, so that's what's going on here. So let me get to Telegram and good news. So here's good news for Patriots. Okay. Now the good news of the week coming from CJ Truth on Telegram. And President Trump is holding rallies again. And, so the, hey, Greg, what's up? So I'm going to post the Brighteon link here before I get into the news. I think this is the Brighteon link. So I made a short link so it's easier to remember. And it's just evantalks.com/Brighteon. And that'll link you to my channel on Brighteon.com right away. So CJ Truth is announcing that President Trump is holding rallies again. And the first one will be Saturday, June 26th in Cleveland. He'll be throwing his support behind former White House aide Max Miller, who is seeking to primary Rhino Congressman Anthony Gonzalez. That's Republican in name only. And Gonzalez was one of 10 GOP House members who voted for impeachment in January. So it's time to get him out. Next up, President Trump will join Texas Governor Greg Abbott on an official visit to the southern border on June 30th. Now, Kamala Harris, in charge of the southern border, has still not seen fit to even go there. President Trump, not even in office anymore, although he is the legitimately elected president, he will continue to go down to the border and shine a spotlight on these crimes against our nation and show the incredible people of ICE and Border Patrol that they have our unshakable support. 3, the truth continues to come out about January 6th. Okay, Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, and his staff has reviewed surveillance footage and found that almost 40% of the 800 people who entered the Capitol walked peacefully through an open doorway in front of 5 Capitol police officers. Senator Johnson is pushing to interview those officers. So I showed you some of that video last week. You clearly had police opening the gates. You had them ushering people in. You had them standing aside as people are walking by. You had one police officer say, "I don't agree with it, but I respect it." We didn't know what he was referring to. When Ashley Babbitt was murdered by that supposed police officer that they have yet to release his name. Ashley Babbitt murdered by Capitol Police. Okay, say her name. Ashley Babbitt. Say her name. Say her name. Ashley Babbitt. Okay, not mad about that at all. Sorry, I promised lightness today, but still, someone's got to pay for murdering Ashley Babbitt, okay? So Senator Johnson's exposing the fraud about the January 6th fake story of the insurrection, and there has been, this isn't coming from the good news of the week, but I'm going to find this for you, maybe go into this a little bit more tomorrow possibly. A lot of the people that were involved in these so-called insurrection events were actual FBI agents themselves from the deep state, like infiltrating organizations and then actually helping plan these things and then blaming them on the Trump supporters and the Patriots that they're trying to criminalize. So they're called unindicted co-conspirators, and they're all over the January 6th paperwork for the arrests and the people who are in jail who are all patriots. In the informations that are talking about what they're arrested for and all of that, there are these quote-unquote unindicted co-conspirators who turn out to all be deep state intelligence agents who were embedded into different groups, and actually up to half of the people, like in that fake Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping story, that was another false flag attack, half of those people in the car that were planning on the kidnapping were actual agents of the deep state, the FBI. They're rotten, disgusting, despicable people that are turning on their own people. It's disgusting, and it's absolutely revolting. And I don't understand how these people are allowed not only to keep their jobs, but to run all over American citizens and their freedoms, and to treat them like a communist regime would treat them. But, you know, we are presently being taken over by an illegitimate regime who seized the election and stole votes and all of that stuff. So let me continue with the good news of the week. I digress. Okay. Representative Paul Gosar from Republican Arizona grilled FBI Director Wray about January 6th and entered the Revolver News article into the record with unanimous consent. The Revolver News article was the thing I was just talking about that showed that tons of the people that were supposedly involved in these insurrection events were actual deep state operatives that were planning the events and planning them themselves. So this article on Revolver News, I think I'll cover that in depth tomorrow because that is just shocking stuff, and it's shocking stuff. So I'll say it twice. So next, brave people continue to expose MSM corruption, that's mainstream media corruption, during a live segment. Oh, this was amazing. Fox reporter Ivy Hecker accused Fox News of censoring her. She had secretly recorded her bosses at Fox, directing her to squelch her stories, including one about the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine in treating COVID-19. In an interview with Project Veritas, she accused Fox of caring more about their corporate sponsors than about telling people the truth. So we'll look at that tomorrow as well. A Fulton County, Georgia election official admitted that the ballot drop box transfer forms are missing for almost 19,000 absentee ballots. Woohoo. There is no record of how these ballots got from point A to point B. That means there's no chain of custody to prove that they weren't tampered with. Fulton County, Georgia, is now the fourth county in Georgia under investigation for failing to produce chain of custody documentation. The fraud is coming out, you guys. So all of the conspiracy theorists are being proved right yet again, and all of the mainstream news outlets who did their fact checking, which is propaganda, as I exposed yesterday, all of those propagandists are being proved liars right now and actually co-conspirators in treason. So I hope they're all tried for treason against the country one day. The Biden regime, I won't call it the Biden administration, they're an illegitimate regime who stole the election and they don't belong in power. They are a regime. They're not an administration. The Biden regime announced an investigation into NIH grants, that's the National Institute of Health, including the funding Dr. Fauci approved for the Wuhan lab. NIH, I think, is in North Carolina. There's money that was funneled through a university in North Carolina and then conducted gain-of-function research with the Wuhan lab. And that's how they got around some of these laws against the gain-of-function research that created the COVID virus. So yesterday, incidentally, we showed the Jon Stewart clip where he finally acknowledged and forced Stephen Colbert and his audience to acknowledge that this virus was man-made and it was not what the fake news was telling us the whole time, okay? So even they're kind of admitting it now, which kind of feels good. Governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey, issued an executive order that protects the rights of public college and university students. Under the executive order, students cannot be mandated to get the jab, show a vaccine passport, wear a mask, or be tested for COVID-19 in order to attend classes. That is amazing. Okay, Governor Doug Ducey, good job. Good job. Because there are universities that are mandating that their students all get the shot, and there are university students already dropping dead. And Mike Adams reported today on his podcast about some predominantly black students who are dropping dead and being severely injured from these shots, and yet the universities are still requiring that the students take these experimental jabs before they come back to school. They're also forcing the testing, and we know that the PCR tests are false. And they, first they jacked up the number of cycles from the low number of cycles they're supposed to do the tests on to like 40 plus cycles, and that's where they were finding false positives and dead RNA, and that's when they were saying, oh, you have COVID, even though a lot of people didn't have COVID. And a lot of electron microscopes, Mike Adams has done some electron microscope experiments on some of these PCR tests and some of the swabs. And there are things on the swabs that are really disturbing when you look at them under a microscope. And some of them look like hooks, and they kind of hook into your organs and your tissues. Some of them, they're like the spike proteins. It's really, really scary stuff. So a Florida court, so good for Arizona Governor Doug Ducey. I think that that's going to be a problem that is going to have to happen in a lot of states. Are going to have to take on the universities because, and really, like, parents and school kids should be class action suing these universities who are requiring experimental technology be shot into your bodies. That's violations of the Nuremberg Code. And those university officials who are violating the Nuremberg Code are actually subjecting themselves to trials for crimes against humanity, which are punishable by death. So I think that people who are administrators in the universities who are requiring these vaccine shots are committing crimes against humanity and should be punished by death, okay? After a trial for crimes against humanity, Nuremberg-style trials, right? Crimes against humanity, university administrators requiring vaccines, you're guilty of crimes against humanity. You're violating the Nuremberg Code, and you should be strung up by your neck by the gallows, and you should dangle, dangle, dangle until you're dead, because you are violating the Nuremberg Code, and you are punishable by death for crimes against humanity, okay? So stop doing it, university officials. Jesus Christ. What is with these people? A Florida appeals court has ruled that bodily autonomy is a fundamental right and that all mask mandates, past and present, are unconstitutional. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I told you this a year ago. You may want to look at my LinkedIn article called Why Lockdowns Are Unconstitutional. You might want to look at my old COVID review videos called Why Lockdowns and Mask Orders Are Unconstitutional. I may not have titled everything just that, but I outlined it perfectly clearly, okay? And to be thanked for that, I was supposed to get a really high-paying job in the entertainment business by a friend of mine that I've known since 8th grade, who runs a big division of the movie, one of the big movie studios. And I went and got OSHA certified at his recommendation, and I did all of this stuff, and I got really expensive insurance. I went in for thousands of dollars, and then this fake pandemic hit. And I started advising people about how the mask orders and the lockdowns are unconstitutional, how masks don't stop a virus. And to be thanked for this, I was blackballed and blacklisted and ghosted by this kid I've known since 8th grade, won't return my calls, won't text me, still works for the big studios. And I'm so disappointed. I am so beyond disappointed, okay, at being ghosted for telling the truth, at investing thousands of dollars and dozens of hours of my time into achieving different certifications that I was supposed to be working, traveling, and very well paid by now. And instead, I'm still collecting what little pandemic unemployment is coming my way, and I'm absolutely unemployable in this town. So this is how truth tellers in Los Angeles, California are rewarded for speaking truth, okay? So anyway, at least I was proved right? At least I can sleep well at night. I don't know about these other people. So let's see. Mike Pompeo launched a political action committee called Champion American Values PAC to help conservatives win in 2022. His goal is to elect the most conservative electable candidate at all levels, whether it is school board, city council, or a United States Senate seat. Okay, that's pretty good. I love Mike Pompeo, and I think that's pretty good as a starting point. But this guy, Watch Jaron Jackson, did a really good review last week about why that's kind of not enough, and why there has to be more of a focus on core messaging and core visioning for what conservatives want to achieve, like what's the platform. And And it should be biblical based. It should be based in Christian values, because the world's gone off the rails, and we have to have a return to the Christian values that helped found our nation. So I think that without that, we can elect all the conservatives in the world, and maybe they'll sit for one term, and then the thing will fall apart again. It's like we have to fix the real issues. We have to fix election fraud. We have to fix these fake audits. I mean, the fake audits that aren't like Maricopa County. We have to make all the audits exactly like they're doing in Maricopa County, because the forensic audit is the only true audit. So the forensic audit that they're doing in Maricopa County, that will expose the fraud. It's already exposed. I think there's hundreds of thousands of missing ballots that purportedly were Biden votes that are in pallets that look like ballot boxes, and when they open the ballot boxes, it's blank paper. So it just looks like there was ballots, and there's literally 200,000 ballots missing or something, and Biden purportedly only won Maricopa County by like 10,000 or 11,000 votes. So it's extraordinary what's happening, and the feds are trying to disrupt the audit because they know that their time is severely limited as soon as this fraud comes out. Fraud nullifies whatever was done with the fraud. So if it's a contract and you show fraud, the contract is null and void. If it's an election and you show fraud, the election results are null and void. So, whatever the fake news is saying, whatever social media is censoring, this forensic audit is uncovering the truth, and it's involving more and more states are going to get involved, and it's a beautiful thing. This is like the best news in the world. Unfortunately, it goes along with what Mike Adams was reporting today, that the closer we get to the release of the election fraud proof, okay, the closer we get to a massive deep state false flag operation, probably the size of like a 9/11, where they're going to try to severely do something to kill a lot of Americans and blame it on Patriots, or blame it on Trump voters, blame it on QAnon, whatever they can hang it on, and they'll try to do to divert the attention off of the revealing of truth. And so there is an alarm bell that's kind of being sounded and warned to everyone right now that if you start to see really, really crazy stuff happening really soon, it's because this election fraud information is about to come out, and they're trying to pull a bait and switch and get your attention off the game. So a couple more items of the good news. Less than a third of voters believe Biden's claim that global warming is America's greatest threat, and few Americans are willing to pay more taxes in order to fight it. That's good news, because I have to talk about how wrong I was for all my years as a climate change blogger when I believed the hype. I'll get back into that longer report, because I can show you some of my old reporting that I really believed the hype, and I can kind of unpack that for you and kind of criticize myself the way I like to criticize other people. So I'll be fair, and I'll give myself a really hard time when the time comes to do that. So two more great items of good news. A federal judge has banned Biden's race-based loan forgiveness program that excluded white farmers. The judge cited a previous court ruling that stated government policies that classify people by race are presumptively invalid. So their loan forgiveness program was supposed to be for people of color, and basically they named every single identity label group except white people. And so thankfully a federal judge, a lot of the courts are corrupted. Thankfully this one is not. And then comedian Jon Stewart went on Colbert's Late Show on Monday night and used his entire time to insist that COVID-19 originated in the Wuhan lab and to mock claims that it originated naturally. I'm sure you saw that video. We showed it yesterday. Almost everyone showed it yesterday, so we don't need to show it again. And then from CJ Truth always ends with the best news, is that we are invited to approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. That's Hebrews 4:16. So thank you to CJ Truth on Telegram for releasing this good news of the week, this like every Wednesday and I think Saturday or Sunday. And just feels good to have some good news, to report. So now, where are we at here? We are coming up on the last two things. So I want to cover this article for you from LifeSite News. And this is that, here, I can show you this. Doctors for COVID Ethics, it's called, call out European Medicines Agency over vaccine safety oversights. And then the subtitle says the group first warned the European Medicines Agency of serious potential consequences of COVID-19 vaccine technology as far back as February 21. That was a few months ago. Oh, just this year. Okay. So this is the European Medicines Agency article published today on LifeSite News, saying in the face of contrasting and often misleading data around the nature and dangers of coronavirus vaccines since their launch in late 2020, a new group of medical experts and scientists has formed to expose the lack of evidence for the safety of the new jabs and to hold governing bodies to account for foisting them on the public. I was wondering how long this was going to take. Of course, we saw something like this in the Great Barrington Declaration about the lockdowns, but we haven't yet seen a lot of this stuff in the United States yet. So continuing on the article, Doctors for COVID Ethics first formed at the end of February 2021 when a group of 13 highly distinguished and credentialed medical doctors and scientists from around the world united to warn the EMA, European Medicines Agency, of serious potential consequences of COVID vaccine technology. The group cautioned possible autoimmune reactions, blood clotting abnormalities, stroke, and internal bleeding, which could occur in the brain, spinal cord, and heart. The EMA is responsible for evaluating medical procedures, medicinal products for use in the EU member states. Okay, so now we talk a lot about the spike protein, and that's what this is talking about. So it seems that in February of this year, before they started really pushing out these vaccines, they were warning already, hey, these are going to cause these blood clots. And so people are now dying from the blood clots, from brain hemorrhaging, from heart inflammation in younger people that take the vax. And so doctors are now starting to speak out, which is fantastic. So let's see, the open letter, the first of three, informing the EMA of the dangers of the available COVID vaccines and calling for their removal from the market until further evidence proves their safety and efficacy, including the endorsing signatures of a further 182 medical experts and 12 professionals in the allied fields of health and ethics. So finally, people are calling for the requirement to prove a vaccine's safety and effectiveness before pushing it and foisting it, I think is a great word, on the people. In all, the 207 specialists requested from the EMA evidence that risks of clotting, bleeding, and platelet abnormalities were appropriately ruled out in legitimate empirical trials prior to human use, since such debilitating side effects were foreseeable on their account. So again, they had foreknowledge, they had forewarning, they knew that these injuries and these side effects were foreseeable, and they did no testing to prove their efficacy or safety. In fact, they glossed over all of that, they skipped all the animal tests, and they started telling everyone they had to do it, and now they're bribing everyone, bribing, threatening, and all of the above. So the group, it goes on to say they're not anti-vaxxers, and like everyone has to like kowtow to the media and the vaccine hysteria community, and everyone has to kind of kowtow, and they have to preface everything. It's like the virtue signaling. It's like, I'm not against these shots. In fact, I'm really in favor of them. In fact, they're the greatest things in the world. In fact, they never hurt anybody. I just think blah, blah, blah. It would be good, prudent, and blah, blah, blah if we could maybe just look and da-da-da. You know what? Why? Why are you doing this? They're censoring us anyway. They're not letting us speak truth. And no matter how much couching or virtue signaling you can do, the fact is that no product that skips safety testing and long-term, particularly safety testing, can claim to be safe. And no product that has skipped all the requisite testing and hasn't done any kind of double-blind placebo test or anything like that, they can't claim that it's effective. And yet, all they're doing is claiming that it's safe and it's effective, and that what they're saying is there's no evidence that anything bad happens from them. Well, you know what? There's no evidence that anything good happens from them either. And all of the evidence actually shows that bad stuff is happening. Either people aren't dying yet, or they haven't had a heart attack or a stroke yet. You know, they've only had an anaphylactic response and, thought it was a peanut allergy or whatever. Like, that's the good news, right? Because the bad news is these things have really invasive technology in them, things we don't understand, and things that, again, when they're mixed with electromagnetic fields like radiation, 5G technology, that kind of stuff, there can be magnetofection happening, transfection, which means that the spike proteins that do something to the iron in the blood and reorganize it and create these platelet abnormalities, as they're saying in this LifeSite article, that were foreseeable, that everyone saw coming. So here, let me continue in this article. Among their concerns was not only the EMA's approval of gene-based, quote-unquote, vaccines without the sure knowledge that they were not the cause of fatal side effects like blood clotting, but also the necessity of approving experimental gene-based technology when the health systems of most countries were no longer under imminent threat of being overwhelmed by the virus. Again, because the virus has a 99.5+% survival rate, even among people who test positive for the virus. So there's like almost no risk at all. And so to approve something for emergency use, you have to show that there's no other available treatments and that it's a imminent risk to your health and safety if you get this virus or whatever that thing is that they're trying to avoid. And so neither of those requirements are achieved in reality because of the high survival rate, 99.5%, to all the way up to 99.95% if you're younger. And so and then the HCQ and ivermectin and vitamin D and zinc and all these natural treatments and existing pharmaceutical treatments that have shown to be safe and effective over the years, they do the fake news and the censorship, and you're not allowed to talk about it, and they squash it. And it's just this mix of complete lack of ethics. So what I like about this is, let me finish up the article here. The doctors for COVID ethics, in no uncertain terms, condemned the premature and reckless approval of the vaccines as violating the Nuremberg Code section on human experimentation. All right. See, I'm not just messing around. When I say that these companies are guilty of crimes against humanity and I hit the gavel and I talk about the Nuremberg Code, and yesterday we read all the Nuremberg Code items, yesterday, maybe the day before. When I talk about that, I am not making it up, okay? In my musical report, this is why they want to silence Jews like me, I went into the whole story in history about how the Associated Press, the AP, that includes the New York Times, helped Hitler in their extermination campaign and do the censorship and do the fake news and all the same things they're doing now, okay? And Nuremberg came out of this horrific era of human history, and that's why we had the Nuremberg Code. So if no one's going to call individuals and corporations out for violating the Nuremberg Code, why do we have the Nuremberg Code? Okay, so I'm very serious when I say that these companies are violating the Nuremberg Code, and it's very clear that the Nuremberg Code means business, and the people who violate the Nuremberg Code are subject to be tried for those violations, and the punishment for violating the Nuremberg Code is death, okay? Is death, hanging, death by hanging. Okay, so that's what happened to all the Nazis, and that's what I think is going to ultimately happen to everyone who is participating in this new vaccine holocaust that we're starting right now to see. Okay, so with the universities and all of the administrators, like, they are all basically Nazis and Nazi enablers, every single one of them. And they're no different at all, because people are already dying, they're already having blood clots and heart attacks. This one poor girl had to have a heart transplant, 19 years old. 4 days after getting the vax, she started, or 12 days after getting the vax, she died. Another guy had a heart attack. These young kids that are like in college, and they're being forced to do the vax. And so these universities that are forcing these people to take these shots, and then these people die, like, those university officials need to be put to death. They need to be tried for crimes against humanity in Nuremberg-style trials, found guilty, and executed according to the law. Okay, and that is just like the way that the law was written, and I believe in the rule of law. So people are violating crimes against humanity right now, and that is no small thing that should be overlooked. So that's why they want to silence Jews like me, because I tell it like it is, and I'm really upset, disappointed, disgusted, and angry about all of the institutions in America that we were supposed to trust, the ones that are supposed to look after our children, the ones that are supposed to look after our physical and well-being and health and help see to our freedoms and clean water, air, all this different stuff. We can't trust any of these people anymore. They're all trying to hurt us, or they're suppressing information that could help save us. And so, people need to start paying attention to who works at these companies, who works at the universities, what roles they have, what they're doing specifically and individually to further these policies, and they need to be held accountable when the time comes by being arrested and brought to trial for the crimes against humanity that they're participating in, okay? So enough about that today. CDC, by the way, is already announced the other day that they are going to have an emergency meeting about heart inflammation after the COVID vaccination. Now, of course, they're going to come out with some propaganda and encourage people to still keep taking the vaccine because they're in on the fix. They want people to die. I don't know how these people aren't also in prison for what they already did with the fake news and the COVID, and how they covered up for hydroxychloroquine and they pushed these unsafe shots. I don't know any of these people are allowed to walk free, okay? But now to finish, for today, news came out a couple days ago that one of Zuck's groups funneled 6 figures, almost $500,000, to the Wuhan lab gain of function advocates. So, what are you asking here, Alex? Let's see. How long do you think it will be before the Red Cross is asking people with clean blood to step forward to donate? That's a really good question, too, because I don't think that's going to happen yet, because for some reason they still want more and more people to take these vaxes. And man, it's now getting to the time where if you're in a life-threatening accident and you get a blood transfusion in the hospital, the blood transfusion might kill you. Like, they used to accidentally give blood that had AIDS in it, remember, before they figured that out? And now all of the blood has spike proteins in it. And so people who get blood transfusions are likely to be exterminated by the spike protein. But let me get back to this article. So Zuckerberg and Chan, that is Zuck's wife, have the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative, and they funded much of the unlawful election changes of 2020. And so they broke election laws where they You're supposed to be a cap on what you're allowed to give, and they gave tons more for like ballot boxes to be installed in all these Democrat places where they can dump illegal ballots. Okay, and that's going to all come. A lot of it, hopefully, is going to come forth and come to the surface and be exposed in these election audits. But Zuck should be in prison for what he did to violate election laws. I think that's treason, and you know what the penalty is for that. And now they found that the same initiative gave $500,000 to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which is where Ralph Baric works, which was the guy who made the coronavirus with the gain-of-function research that was funded by Anthony Fauci secretly, where he denied he was doing it at the Wuhan lab, but what he did was he granted money to this University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for Dr. Ralph Baric to do this gain-of-function research, and they created the coronavirus, okay? So Zuck and Chan gave a $433,000 grant to the University of North Carolina for what they say is lab equipment that will accelerate research to address the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, that's what they call it, right? So of course, what that means is they're going to continue the gain-of-function research into creating these more deadly spike proteins and viruses and stuff, because the bioweapon that they released on the public and the fake news and the censorship and now this bribery and threat campaign to get everybody vaccinated, this is all part of this nefarious agenda, and they're all part of it. And so whether you think Zuck has been looking less and less human lately. I don't know if he's part cyborg or if he's part, Mike Adams has postulated that he might be part cyborg. I think he's a lizard person. Like, remember that old show V? Like from the 1980s? They remade it, I think, 20 years later or whatever. But in the original one, there was this scene at the end where, like, it was really cheesy effects, where somebody goes up to the head political lady or the head liaison or whatever to these aliens and rips off her face, and her skin disappears, and underneath you see like lizard skin, like snake skin, and it's like it's like 1982 or something like that, exposing the fact that there are lizard people on planet Earth. Keeping it light and funny. I think we've covered enough news today. What are we supposed to make of all of this? We've got, cut away here. We've got Zuck funding illegal ballot boxes, right? And, helping steal an election. Then you have him secretly funneling money to the Wuhan lab, or the Chapel Hill extension of the Wuhan lab, so they could continue their dangerous gain-of-function research and all kinds of other nefarious stuff that they're doing. You have them actively, we saw yesterday the Project Veritas video, where they acknowledge to each other in what they think is a private meeting that they actively censor true factual information if it's shocking and causes people to have vaccine hesitancy. So they're doing research and funding research into these viruses while they're pushing the vaccine agenda. So I think they're actually just figuring out how to make the vaccines and the virus more dangerous so it could do more damage, so they can continue to get more people feared up about it. But my own theories are irrelevant sort of here, because what we're doing is just putting everything up on the board, so to speak, taking a look at it and thinking, like, what are we supposed to make of this? So maybe next week I'll have to get on the whiteboard here and kind of sketch out all the different silos that are going on here. There's the vaccine and the virus and the origins of the virus. There's like who made it and why did they release it. Then there's the response to it. How was the fear of the virus used to gin up more power grabs by blue state governors? How did the fake news come in and start to alter their reporting and suppress information and push out fake information? And then while fake news, fake science is being done, so the Lancet published this fake article that hydroxychloroquine didn't work, and they had to later retract it when they were exposed as being frauds. And then you had all the fake news republishing that Lancet article for months, even after they retracted it, and refusing to acknowledge that it was exposed as fraud. So you have this multiple layers of fraud and fake news working together to keep the people ignorant, while you have the top people controlling the dialogue and controlling the speech, saying, you know what, we're not even going to let real people tell their own stories about what happened to them or their family, because it might scare other people from getting the shot that we really want them to get, even though it's already killing people, and we're not going to tell people that. So all this stuff is happening together at the same time, and there's a bunch of other stuff happening too that I haven't even reported on, that I've only alluded to. So we got a lot going on, and it brings us back to why we have to every day, every night kind of get our grounding and remember why we're here and, you know, what we're here. So that's where I can end on the good news, like CJ Truth does and like Jaron Jackson does, talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, okay? The good news is that God have already come down to this planet and manifested in the flesh as Jesus Christ, so that we could learn to know God in a different way through God's will and his spirit and his majesty and his grace and his love and his light and his forgiveness and his compassion and his healing authority and healing powers, and in his power to resurrect Jesus. After Jesus took the cross, he was resurrected 3 days later and beat death, so that he was witnessed by all of his apostles and disciples, very well seen. A lot of people told the story of what happened. So look, if you believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, you don't worry as much as a lot of other people who don't believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, because you know that when it's all said and done, it's all over, we're going home, okay? We're going back to God, and we're going to see Jesus, and all of our sins, all of our things that we did or didn't do, that we know in our heart of hearts, and maybe we never told anybody, and maybe nobody knows, right? But we know. And so when that time comes, and you probably have experienced this, where you've done something or didn't do something, and you just beat yourself up about it for a really long time, like, and you don't forgive yourself for stuff. I know that's happened to me. So imagine what happens at the end of your life, where you wake up and you realize that your spirit is eternal, and all of a sudden, however it works, because I don't know the details, but however it works, you kind of wake up, you look back at your whole life here, and you remember everything. You remember everything you did and everything you didn't do, and everyone you helped and everyone you hurt and everyone you ignored who maybe could have used your help. And all of these things come rushing up and fill your soul, and you realize that you had a chance while you were here to live a perfect life and be close to God according to God's will. And if you're like most people, including me, you've missed the mark more often than not. And so sinning really means to miss the mark. So it's like, I just know, because I'm a self-critical person that has beaten myself up a lot for things in the past, that you can't change, that I can't change. And I know that at the end of this life, I can't handle all the regret that I know I have for the places I've fallen short. And I'm just one person talking about myself. So I'm starting to see now my Christian brothers and sisters that care enough to tell people about Jesus and to tell them about the gospel and to pray for their souls. I see this now as an authentic expression of love and caring, because eternity is forever. And we may live 100, 120 years here maybe with technology or whatever. It's still just a drop in the bucket compared to eternity. So I recommend, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, that you read the book of John. Just open the New Testament, skip right to the book of John, Saint, okay, and read that out loud, read it for yourself, because it's plain English. It's, I think, the best book in the Bible, and it really helps you kind of see things in a way that should help you believe, okay? So Greg says, there is the good news, amen, and grace is the free gift. Yay, exactly. So Greg's my Bible study buddy, and I want to thank you guys, Alex McDonald and the Politics Show. Give a shout out to watch the Politics Show. And I will be here tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll be here Friday at 3 p.m. I'll be here every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. and posting my replays, as I already announced. So I'm going to leave it there today. I know I said a lot of ums and ahs, but I hope that this was an enjoyable and informative episode today of the Evan J Livestream, and I thank you again for being with me. Really, thank you for being with me, because I love it when you guys are here. I love when the comments come in and being able to have this back and forth. So until tomorrow, be well, go in peace. I love you, and I'll see you later tomorrow at 3. I'm still working on my goodbye little rap, right? I gotta have a hello, I gotta have a goodbye. Still working on it. It's a work in progress. Thanks for being with me, and remember, this is broadcast news. See you tomorrow at 3, guys.